right, so we're back and diving deep today into Micron's Q1 2025 earnings. And, comparing it to what we saw back in Q4 and Q3 of 2024, got all the transcripts, reports, you name it. Want to make sure, everyone listening really gets what's going on with this stock, especially, that drop after the earnings call. Kind of came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it is interesting because on the surface, they seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, record revenue this quarter. But then you start digging a little deeper and you see some things popping up, some red flags that, I can see why investors are getting a little spooked.
Yeah, I was surprised too. So where do we even, start with this to make sense of it all?
Well, I think, start with the good news first, right? Micron's data center business is, it's booming, absolutely booming. Revenue from that segment up 400% year over year. It's crazy. And now it's, more than half their entire business.
Okay, so that's massive. Data centers are everything these days, so I guess it makes sense that, Micron would be riding that wave. But, what exactly are they selling to these data centers? We're not talking about your typical, laptop RAM here, are we?
No, not at all. This is much more specialized stuff. Think data center SSDs. Those are hitting record revenue too, which means Micron is, they're taking market share in a really high value segment. And then there's HBM, high bandwidth memory. It's super fast, super expensive, and it's specifically designed for AI applications. Micron's HBM revenue, get this, it's more than doubling every single quarter, which tells you just how much demand there is for that right now.
So they're crushing it in the data center and AI space. You'd think, stock price would be through the roof, but it dropped. What happened?
Yeah, so this is where that management tone shift comes in. Remember back in Q3 how they were just so optimistic. They even predicted 50% sequential growth in their data center business. Yeah. We'll cut to this Q1 call, and things sound a little, different.
A little less enthusiastic.
Definitely more cautious. Now they're talking about inventory reductions by consumers. PCs, smartphones, hitting them harder than they thought. Basically, there's a lot of product just sitting around unsold, and that's really impacting how much they can ship out, new chips. It's not that the demand vanished. It's more it's like a traffic jam in the supply chain.
So not a demand problem, supply chain issue. Gotcha. But why would that freak investors out?
Because it throws a big question mark into the mix, right? Q1 revenue was fine, right in the middle of what they predicted, actually. But it's the future that has people worried. The guidance they gave for the coming quarters, it's a lot lower than what folks were hoping for.
Right, okay. Lower guidance usually means lower stock price.
Right.
Makes sense. What part of their business is, driving those lowered expectations? Where's the weak spot?
Their NAND flash memory business. It's a big concern. They were initially expecting high teens growth in this segment, but now they've slashed that down to low double digits.
Wow. Okay, that's a significant cut. Why such a big drop? Is it just this supply chain thing, or is there something else going on?
It's a few things, actually. The slower consumer device sales, definitely a big part of it. People just aren't buying new phones and laptops as fast as they used to, which means less demand for that NAND flash memory. And then, on top of that, there's the whole inventory problem we talked about. Even if demand did pick up, it would take time to work through all that excess inventory.
Right, yeah. Those are the consumer-facing things. But weren't data centers using record amounts of NAND too? Figured that'd help offset the consumer slowdown, right?
You'd think so, and but there's a twist. Micron actually mentioned that even data centers are, they're starting to buy fewer SSDs after that big spending spree they went on. Seems like they stocked up on all the storage they needed for a while, so demand it's cooling off there too.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Not good. So we've got slowing consumer demand, a supply chain backlog, and now data centers hitting the brakes. This is not painting a very rosy picture for Micron, at least for the near future.
Yeah, not great. And that's what's really spooking investors. When you combine all of that, it creates a lot of uncertainty about the future earnings.
All right, so what is Micron doing about all of this? They're not just sitting around waiting for things to get better, right? What steps are they taking to address this stuff?
No, they're definitely not just twiddling their thumbs. On the NAND side, they're cutting production pretty significantly, actually, somewhere in the mid-teens percentage. They're also, slowing down how fast they're making the new, more advanced NAND chips.
Yeah.
Trying to, avoid just flooding the market when it's already kind of saturated.
Right, okay. So basically trying to, match the supply to the lower demand. Makes sense. But what about the DRAM business? You were saying before that's a little more complicated. What are they doing on that front? Yeah, DRAM it's a different beast. Overall, the supply and demand for DRAM should be pretty balanced in 2025. At least that's what the forecasts are saying. But here's the catch: the demand for like the most advanced types of DRAM, the really cutting edge stuff, that's still super high.
Ah, I see. So even though the overall DRAM market is kind of stable, there's a shortage of the premium chips. And this is where the whole AI boom ties back in, right? Because those AI systems, they need tons of that high performance memory.
Exactly. And that brings us back to HBM. Remember how we talked about how it's in like crazy high demand? Well, that's actually putting a squeeze on the overall DRAM supply
Mm-hmm.
because the manufacturing capacity that could be used for regular DRAM, well, they're using it to make more HBM instead because, that's what the big bucks are right now.
So they're kind of in a tough spot then, huh? They got to meet that HBM demand to, cash in on this whole AI gold rush. But that means taking away from their regular DRAM production, which could come back to bite them if this AI thing cools off. Yeah, they're walking a tightrope, that's for sure. But it's not just about HBM. Micron is also, pouring money into developing the next generation of DRAM chips, the ones that'll be powering even more, advanced AI systems down the line.
So they're all in on AI. High risk, high reward. They're definitely not afraid to gamble on this stuff. But what about the competition? Are there other players in the memory market that could, like, threaten their position, especially in this AI race?
Oh, there's always competition in tech, you know that. And there's been a lot of talk about Chinese memory makers
Hmm.
catching up. The transcripts did mention one, a Chinese DRAM and NAND manufacturer that's ramping up production. But from what it sounds like, they're mostly focused on older technology and mainly serving the Chinese market for now.
Okay, so not really a direct threat to Micron's, like, high-end business,
Mm.
at least not yet.
That seems to be the case, yeah. At least according to Micron. They said that only about 10% of their business for the rest of 2025 will be in those older types of chips, the ones that the Chinese competitor is focused on. Their strategy, Micron's, is to stay ahead of the curve, focus on the really advanced stuff where they have an advantage.
Classic move, right? Stay one step ahead by innovating faster. But it's risky. What if this Chinese company catches up faster than they think? Or some other competitor comes out of nowhere?
Oh, for sure, those are valid concerns. This memory market, it's always changing. Micron can't just, sit back and relax. They got to keep innovating, keep adapting if they want to stay on top.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here: the good, the bad, the uncertain. But at the end of the day, what does it all mean for for investors? Should they buy, hold, or sell Micron stock right now? What's the verdict?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. It's tough to say, honestly. Micron is still saying, they're going to hit record revenue, maintain good profitability, all that in fiscal year 2025. But like we said, there are some big ifs attached to that.
Right, right. Those ifs being, consumer inventory clearing up by spring 2025, data centers getting hungry for SSDs again, and HBM staying, the hot commodity it is now. Those are big assumptions. If any of those don't pan out, Micron could be in trouble.
No doubt. And you know what's interesting? When you look closely at the Q1 transcript, there are some subtle but some pretty significant changes compared to last quarter. Like they're much less specific about margin expansion now. Back in Q3, they were all gung-ho about growing their margins, but now they're being a lot more cautious.
So even they seem less sure about hitting those big targets. Doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does it?
It's definitely a sign of caution. But look, it's not all doom and gloom. There's still a lot of upside for Micron, especially if this whole AI bet pays off.
So for our listeners out there, trying to make sense of all of this and figure out what to do with their Micron stock, what advice would you give them? Where do they go from here?
Well, I think the first thing is to figure out what kind of investor they are. Are they looking for quick gains, or are they willing to ride out the volatility and maybe reap the rewards of a long-term investment?
Yeah, if they're in it for the short term, Micron's probably a bit too risky right now. Too many unknowns, too many things that could send the stock tumbling in the next few months.
But if they're thinking long-term and they really believe in this transformative power of AI, then Micron could be a really appealing investment. The key is to look past the current uncertainty and focus on that long-term potential. If AI really does, revolutionize everything, like people are saying, Micron is, well, they're in a great position to benefit from that.
So it comes down to risk tolerance, I guess.
Yeah.
And how much you buy into the whole AI future. No easy answers here, But hopefully, this deep dive has given our listeners the information they need to make a good decision.
Absolutely. Investing is all about, weighing the risks and the rewards. And Micron, well, it's a particularly complex case right now.
But that complexity is kind of what makes it so fascinating, right? It's a company at a crossroads, betting its future on a technology that could change everything.
And the next few quarters, they're going to be crucial. They'll tell us a lot about whether that bet's going to pay off.
It's like they're pushing all their chips in,
Yeah.
on this one big AI bet.
Yeah, exactly. And like the next few quarters are going to be telling. If those inventories clear out, if the data centers start buying again, if HBM stays hot, then yeah, Micron's gamble could pay off big.
But if not,
Uh-oh.
could be left with, not much to show for it.
True. Not every bet's a winner. But, good players, they don't just rely on luck. They have a strategy. They adapt. And sometimes they know when to fold them.
And that's what we got to watch with Micron, right? Are they being flexible enough, or are they too locked in on this AI future? Can they shift gears if things change? And what about the competition, especially with those Chinese memory makers starting to make some moves?
Lots of questions, yeah. And this Q1 report, it's just a snapshot. Gives us some clues, but the real story is it's still playing out.
And that's what I like about these deep dives. We get to go beyond the headlines, really, really dig in, but often we end up with more questions than answers.
At least they're good questions, right? You've got a framework now for understanding Micron, for making sense of what they're doing and what it could mean for your own investments.
So as you go and explore Micron further, let's leave you with one last thought to chew on.
Yeah.
What if AI isn't just like a temporary boost for the memory market? What if it's something much bigger, like a fundamental shift that changes the whole tech landscape?
Think about it. What if everything, your phone, your car, even your fridge, is powered by AI? Data centers become the brains of this global network of intelligent machines. It's not sci-fi anymore. It's becoming real.
And in that world, a company like Micron, with their focus on this cutting edge memory tech, they're not just a chip maker anymore. They're like the key that unlocks it all.
It's a big vision, and whether it actually happens, who knows? But the next few years, they're going to be wild. That's for sure.
So stay tuned. Keep asking those tough questions and keep digging deeper. That's what we'll be doing. Hope you'll join us for the next deep dive.
Closing disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Deep Dive to Earning Calls. Before we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The insights shared are based on my analysis and supported by advanced AI-generated insights. While I aim to provide accurate and thoughtful commentary, the information shared may not always be complete or free from error. I am not a financial advisor, and this podcast does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. Always do your own research, consult a licensed professional, and carefully consider your personal financial situation before making any decisions. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of your principal. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.